Authentic executive presence requires a certain level of humility and a resting of the ego that oftentimes we are not comfortable with. It makes us feel vulnerable. But I think we can take some lessons from Captain Michael Abrashoff, who wrote the book, It's Your Ship. It's a very popular book. He's a speaker across the world now. And there's one particular story in here that I want to share with you. It's a story of how he was beginning to work with a crew that was learning how to work with one another and with him. The problem was they weren't feeling good about the people who were coming onto the ship, the senior level people. They still felt this disconnectedness from them and a lack of trust. So when one of the commodores was coming onto the ship to spend a little bit of time with the captain informed him that they were not going to be having lunch in the captain's corner. In fact, they were going to be having lunch in the mess hall with all of the crew. And this is why. Well, on my ship, the VIPs were my crew. And I wanted the senior officers to spend time with them so they could discover how truly talented and dedicated they are. Not how truly talented and dedicated he was, but how truly dedicated and talented his people were. Now, as they went to the mess hall, the story gets even better. He and the Commodore got in line near the end of the line with the rest of the crew in front of them. And during that time in the lunch hall, his crew was allowed to ask the Commodore lots of questions. And here was the Commodore's response. He was impressed by the caliber of my crew's questions. He had had no idea that lesser ranks could teach him anything. But when one petty officer asked him what he thought about the Navy's leadership continuum, a new training program for enlisted people, the Commodore was caught short. He knew nothing about it. Since the program affected only enlisted people, not officers, he had seen no reason to pay attention to it. Now he realized, with a shock, that he was totally ignorant about a program of vital importance to 1,500 sailors aboard the 6 ships under his command. The Commodore said that this had been the most worthwhile experience he'd ever had in the Navy. And from now on, he planned to have lunch on the mess decks of whatever ship he visited. Captain Abrashoff became vulnerable. Captain Abrashoff understood that his crew could do something that he couldn't do. Captain Abrashoff was strong and resilient as a leader, but his ego was not allowed to drive the events of that day. Instead, the knowledge and the commitment of his team drove the events of that day. What can you learn from this? Where can you become more vulnerable as a leader? Where can you elevate your people and their knowledge and their commitment to the work that you're doing, above and beyond yourself? Watch what happens to your ship as you allow that to happen.